He ran the Clinton investigation, he runs the Russian investigation, and he hates the president. But your report says while his bias cast a cloud, it didn't impact final decisions. Is that accurate?
Bias is all the way through this, and I'm sorry that you were not able to see that.
In this country, we cannot live in a world where unelected people at the FBI get to shelter someone who I believe was actively working against the president.
What is more textbook bias than prejudging this investigation before it's over and this one before it begins?
New fallout tonight from today's heated hearing on the Hill. That was a small piece of it. Lawmakers grilled Inspector General Michael Horowitz on why FBI agent Peter Strzok's anti-Trump bias was not found to be an influence on the Clinton email investigation. And tonight, Strzok is responding, saying those lawmakers are actually the ones who are biased. A short time ago, his lawyer releasing a statement saying in part, quote, all of this seriously calls into question the impartiality of the disciplinary process, which now appears tainted by political influence. Instead of publicly calling for a long-serving FBI agent to be summarily fired, politicians should allow the disciplinary process to play out free from political pressure. Here now exclusively, Congressman Bob Goodlatte and Trey Gowdy, who chaired the two committees that questioned the IG Horowitz today. Thank you to both of you and for your time tonight. Congressman Gowdy, I'll start with you first. I know that is the first you're hearing of Peter Strzok's attorney and that letter responding today.
I hope he says that when he comes before Congress. I hope that is his defense, that he's a victim. This is the same guy that said his fellow citizens, he could smell them if they were Trump supporters. This is the same guy that said the election should be $100 million to nothing. This is the same guy who sleptwalked through the Hillary Clinton investigation, but then woke up and got real excited at the prospect of ending the Trump campaign or ending the Trump presidency. I hope to goodness that he comes to Congress and next week, and that's his defense.
Congressman Goodlatte, it's a pretty unbelievable statement that says he is the target of unfounded personal attacks, political games, and inappropriate information leaks.
There is absolutely no question that all across our two committees, members on both sides of the aisle acknowledged how appalled they were by the statements that he made, and many acknowledged that making those statements using government offices and government equipment is highly inappropriate, and it clearly reflected upon the distinction between these two investigations where his bias shows through clear and clear. But in any event, I agree with Trey. We want to have him before the committee. He has now indicated that he would come voluntarily, but he has not pinned himself down on when. So we are imminently going to issue a subpoena to him to appear next week.
Okay, so the subpoena's been prepared. It has not been issued yet.
It is ready to go.
On the way. Okay, so we should expect to see Peter Strzok testify publicly next week?
We're still open to working with him, but he needs to understand that he has to do it on our timetable, not on his. So if he's going to appear voluntarily, his lawyer better contact us right away because the subpoena is coming.
Well, I think he'll hear that message loud and clear. And Chairman Gowdy, you talked a lot about the timeline of those text messages today. And then the big news that the IG is now confirming that they're looking into whether or not this FBI agent and his bias, whether it impacted the launch of the Russia investigation. That is a big question. Did it?
Well, it's the seminal question. If you look at the chronology, of course, in late July of 2016 is when the Russia probe began. And you're not 2 weeks into it before Peter Strzok is saying we'll stop it, with the it being the presidency. We're not 2 weeks into it before he's talking about an insurance policy to make sure Donald Trump is never the president. So keep in mind, he's 2 weeks into an investigation, and he's already talking about impeaching the target of his investigation. They hadn't done anything at that point. I mean, 2 weeks, the paperwork's not even processed, but yet he's already reached his conclusion on what the outcome of that investigation is. Fast forward to when he's put on the Mueller probe, and he's talking about how important this is and how momentous it is, and he's got to fix and finish what he started with the Hillary Clinton investigation. I have never, in 20 years being a prosecutor, seen a law enforcement agent with this amount of animus and bias towards a target, and I hope and pray he comes next week and portrays himself as a victim.
I think a lot of people at this point, based on that setup, are going to want to see that as well. But Chairman Goodlatte, as far as now the IG confirming that they are looking into Peter Strzok, those text messages, his role in the launch of this Russia probe, what more, after those hearings wrapping up today, what more do you want to know?
Well, there's a lot of things that the Inspector General was not tasked with looking at, but he also, let's just note that same Peter Strzok was deeply involved, the lead investigator in the Hillary Clinton email investigation, and at the same time he was making the statements that Trey just referred to. He was also helping a process that bent over backwards to not follow proper investigative procedures with regard to former Secretary of State and then presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. That is a shocking contrast that should never be allowed again to occur in the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And so we have to continue to pursue that to make sure that the 2020 presidential election or any other future investigation is not tainted by this kind of bias and not tainted by the inappropriate procedures.
Happy with the way things went today, Chairman?
I thought it was a very good hearing, and I think that many people were today on both sides of the aisle acknowledging that the decision that was made by President Trump, some of them didn't use his name, as recommended to by Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein to fire James Comey, was the correct decision.
Chairman Goodlatte and Gowdy, I know it was a really busy day for you, a busy day in Washington, and thanks for coming on the program tonight. We appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was another day of some pretty intense questioning for the Justice Department Inspector General today. At issue, what part politics and prejudice played in the FBI's investigation of the Hillary Clinton email scandal and, by extension, the ongoing probe into Russia election interference. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge is watching it all here from Capitol Hill.
They prejudged the outcome of the Hillary Clinton investigation before the investigation ended, and these exact same FBI agents and attorneys prejudged the outcome of the Russia investigation before it even began.
During a second day of marathon testimony, lawmakers pressed Inspector General Michael E. Horowitz over what Republicans describe as political bias at the FBI, impacting both presidential campaigns. They point to a newly discovered August 2016 text between FBI agent Peter Strzok and FBI lawyer Lisa Page saying they would stop Trump from being elected.
I wonder who the we is, and the we'll stop it. If we can go through a couple of them,
or the broader or a broader group beyond that. We have found 3 additional FBI agents.
And some transition to the Russia Special Counsel investigation.
Do they still work for Mueller? That's my understanding is no.
In July 2016, Agent Strzok also pivoted from the Clinton emails to collusion.
Do you believe the political bias shown by this text had an effect on the initiation of the Russia investigation?
That's a matter we've got under review.
Horowitz testified a 4th forensic review of the Strzok-Page FBI phones uncovered the explosive text in May. Congress wasn't immediately notified.
We sent it to the Office of Deputy Attorney General and
So Mr. Rosenstein,
in his office.
the point is when you did get it, Mr. Rosenstein decided we couldn't get it until your report came out. He sat on it for a month of time.
Another lawmaker questioned why the report was silent on allegations the Clinton server may have been hacked, and the FBI failed to follow up.
But that's not in your report.
That's correct.
The president weighed in.
When you read that IG report about how she got away with what she got away with, it's a disgrace.
After multiple reviews and an FBI investigation, Democrats blamed former Director James Comey and accused Republicans of refusing to acknowledge that a Clinton prosecution was never justified.
All their howling about lock her up was bogus. It was baseless. It was unsubstantiated.
James Comey decided to play judge, jury, and executioner, and on October 28th, he executed the Hillary Clinton campaign.
The hearing concluded after 6.5 hours of testimony with headlines in the final minutes. Inspector General Horowitz confirmed that he's following up on allegations that FBI interview summaries known as 302s were altered, Brett.
Catherine, there was also some late news this afternoon on FBI agent Peter Strzok. What did we learn there?
Well, in a statement, Strzok's attorney confirmed to Fox News that his client has been fully cooperating with an internal FBI review, which included recently being escorted from the FBI building. The statement also said, at least for now, Strzok remains an FBI employee, Brett.
Okay, Catherine, thank you.
DOJ Inspector General Michael Horowitz facing off with lawmakers again today over his report on the Clinton email investigation. Republican lawmakers pressing Horowitz over revelations of FBI bias.
They prejudged the outcome of the Hillary Clinton investigation before the investigation ended, and these exact same FBI agents and attorneys prejudged the outcome of the Russia investigation before it even began.
Do you believe this text shows political bias?
I think as we found, it clearly shows a biased state of mind.
February and March of 2016, Peter Strzok said, Trump's abysmal, Trump's an idiot, he's a bleeping idiot, Hillary should win 100 million to 0. Sounds to me like he hates the president.
His text messages would certainly leave that as the implication.
Horowitz confirming to Congress he's investigating whether embattled FBI official Peter Strzok anti-Trump bias factored into the launch of the Bureau's Russia probe. Strzok's lawyer is also firing back against criticism, saying his client is not a conspirator, but instead, ready, a patriot. All right, Kimberly, we're just getting word from Strzok's lawyer. Apparently he's been escorted out of the FBI office building today.
Well, I hope after listening to Trey Gowdy today that he speed dialed the best Washington D.C. defense lawyer, and I mean that seriously, because if you listen to Trey earlier today, it was quite compelling and persuasive. He was quite insistent and really fired up about the whole thing. And when I was listening to him, it's like, wow, he's really kind of made the case against not only Strzok but Comey, and McCabe. And Page, and it's bad. I mean, it's really bad for the United States, bad for the FBI, the system of justice. And, Trey Gowdy kept making the point, there can be no fairness in the process with this level of inherent bias.
Very, very biased. And we're now learning that there were more FBI agents who were sending anti-Trump texts, and one, maybe two of those lawyers wound up in the Mueller team. Dana? I mean, this Mueller team is just packed full of these people at this point, and they were removed for anti-Trump tests by Mueller only 3 or 4 months ago, though.
Yeah, can I tell you something?
Yes.
I didn't follow that particular piece of it because I was following immigration all day. I did note that today Catherine Herridge said that Peter Strzok could actually willingly testify in front of Congress by the end of the week.
That'll be
possibly.
big.
So yeah, I will pay attention to that, I promise.
Okay, I think we all will. Greg, what do you think about the IG hearing?
Well, first of all, I believe that Strzok's texts are more incriminating in terms of conspiracies than anything in the Russian collusion thing. I was trying to think about this. What would be comparable to writing "Stop Trump"? Would be Trump texting, "Call Putin. We've got to stop Hillary." That would be the smoking gun. But the big story to me is always going to be Trey Gowdy's ever-changing hair.
I knew it.
He's like Martin Landau in Mission Impossible. He has a suitcase full of sideburns and goatees, or like he's in The Americans. It's like he's got to go somewhere. He is a Russian agent. Trey Gowdy. That is not how he looks.
Say CIA or something.
No, I think he works for the Russians.
He's a national man of mystery. And by the way,
he is.
I think the beard is very becoming, although his politics sometimes is not so becoming. Look,
yes.
I actually did watch it. It's better than watching soap opera in the middle of the day. And the reason why I watched it is because underneath all of the partisan rhetoric about the IG report, we learned that, once again, we have an agency that has some dysfunction. And whether you focus on those emails, texts, disgusted. I'm a former federal employee. Disgusting. Let's just say it.
Yeah.
Disgusting. It's disgusting whether it's saying those things about Mr. Trump or saying those things about Ms. Clinton. They are not hired to text each other about their personal dislike of a particular candidate, blah, blah, blah. That being said, the Office of Professional Responsibility must now do their job and remove those who are still in the employment of the federal government. Beyond that, I think this report tells us a lot about Mr. Comey's state of mind, the fact that he was insubordinate, the fact that he believed that he alone could deliver the so-called message to the American people, didn't have to check with his boss.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to learn in this. I haven't read all of it because, as you know, there are no pictures. But I read faster when I see pictures, but it is a story that we need to know. And by the way, you know, you and I can have a conversation about the Russians, and I can speak a little bit of the language now, because I do believe that we need to get to the bottom of what happened in.
Well, I'm married to a Russian, so I can speak a little.
And speaking of Comey, the Inspector General confirmed that Comey's handling of the classified memos is under investigation. So everyone's under investigation at this point.
You will be soon.
Are we going to do another kumbaya at the end of this segment?
Yeah, we agree.
Yeah, sure.
Can we agree, though?
Yes, the FBI is in complete dysfunction.
Can we agree, though, that these things, they're like soccer? It's like 0-0 at halftime. Like when you're watching these things, it's like soccer.
Did you prepare that
0-0 at halftime.
I don't know if this was a tie. I think this was a slam dunk by the.
But then the next one will be.
You wait till a minute 38 and the guy scores, and you're like, "Thank you, I want to turn this."
It's like soccer
off.
where you cheer a pass.
Yeah. Well, I think Trey Gowdy scored today.
Yeah. Well, with
not just because of his
goatee.
All right.